So now that you have been to the discussion board, posted your things about the difficulties in measuring capabilities and the issues that that might cause, I want to come back to a few other things within the chapter um, and highlight some important things related to the resource-based view. The first thing comes from this problem with measurement of capabilities. Some have accused the resource-based view of using what you might call a circular logic. Consider this. In the resource-based view, if you're asked, how do you gain a competitive advantage and earn excess profits? The answer is that you build on unique capabilities. However, if you're asked, how do you know that a firm has unique capabilities, given the problem with measurement of them? The answer tends to be, well, you know that they have unique capabilities because they have a competitive advantage and are earning excess profits. So that's what one might call a circular logic. Now, a competitive advantage builds on unique capabilities. You know you have unique capabilities because you have a competitive advantage. How do we address this? Well, one of the ways that it's tried to be addressed is by looking further into what is it about the capabilities that lead to an advantage. So we had this kind of overall picture that it's dependent on the extent of the advantage, the sustainability, and the appropriability. And we need to make sure that we're comfortable with each of these terms. So let me go into each of them a little bit further. The first step is looking at whether a capability or a resource for that matter allows the firm to initially develop a competitive advantage. And it depends on a couple of factors. The first is scarcity. This has to be something that other firms don't have. If other firms have it, it may be something that's valuable, but it's at best going to kind of earn you competitive parity. If, on the other hand, it's initially scarce, other people don't have it, uh, it has a potential to earn you a competitive advantage. However, it's got to be paired with a second factor, which is relevance. That is, it must be something that the market cares about, or at least it's got to be something that you can turn into something the market cares about. It's got to be a capability that leads you to lower prices, to the ability to differentiate based on things like quality or innovation or image. It's got to be able to be turned into something that allows you to deal with, address the key success factors in the industry. Again, be something that the market cares about. Once you've got it, we kind of go to the next step in the process. How sustainable is this competitive advantage? Because we know that everything else equal, once you show you have something that the market cares about, other firms are going to try to copy it. So, how do we look at and see whether this is going to be sustainable over a period of time? Well, the first is kind of this durability notion. Is this something that was kind of a flash in the pan, or is it something that you can sustain and build on over a period of not only months, but potentially years? The other two factors are whether other firms are going to be able to imitate this. And here was where we get into transferability and replicability. Transferability is, can they purchase it and just put it into their firm? Can they hire away key people and just put it into place? Or is it something that is kind of unique within the company? Similarly with replicability, if they look and see what your competitive advantages ultimately manifested in, lower prices, better quality, whatever that may be, can they replicate this? Can they do it within their own firm? To the extent that the capability is integrated into the operations of the firm, it is harder for others to see exactly why uh, the firm is able to do what they're doing so well. Um, for example, to innovate, you may know that a firm is doing well because they're able to innovate, but why are they able to innovate? Is it a single person, or is it a combination of their R&D people, matched with the way they have structured to integrate those with their market research people and their production people, the greater it's integrated within all of the operations of the firm, the harder it's going to be for others to replicate it. That notion of integration also comes into play with our third factor, our third condition, which is appropriability. That is, the firm's got to be able to capture the value that comes from all this. And we got several things that come into play here: property rights, relative bargaining power, and again, this notion of embeddedness. If the advantage is really built off the skills and abilities of one or a handful of people, those people are likely to be able to appropriate the value from it. They can threaten to go to another company, demand more money. They can be the ones to appropriate the value. If, on the other hand, this is something that is truly embedded and integrated within the entire operations of the company, you're going to have a much better chance at being able to appropriate the value from it. It's not that you don't want to share that value with employees, but no single employee is the key. You can lose one, you can lose another, and you continue to have the capability because it is embedded rather than part of one single person. So with this kind of notion established, let's go one step further and ask, okay, so how do we use all this within the strategy of the firm? Well, Grant offers in the chapter this notion of a framework for appraising resources and capabilities. Along the bottom, we've got the strategic importance. How important is this any given resource or capability to the strategy? Up the side, we've got the relative strength. How good are you? So, if you've got relative strengths and its strategic importance, that's a key strength. And if you've got a key strength, that should really be what you have built your strategy around. All right, those should be the real basis for your competitive advantage. And hopefully they meet those characteristics of scarcity, relevance, difficult to imitate, etc. Now, what about that lower right box, the key weaknesses? Well, those need to be addressed. All right, those are things that are important to delivering on the strategy, but they're things that you don't currently have a particular strength in. You can try to develop these. You need to address them in some way to support the strategy, but this is a box that you might want to consider outsourcing for. These are things that you have to do, but are not necessarily the overall key. So perhaps in an industry, you're competing on quality, you're competing on features, but a key to the industry might also be convenience and delivery. Well, maybe you outsource the delivery to another company that's really good at that, because that's just kind of a necessary but not sufficient condition for your strategy. The real strategy is built on your key strengths, but you need to deal with the other thing. So, that lower right box, the key weaknesses have to be addressed. You might develop them, but may also be easier to just outsource them to somebody else who is already good at them. Then we've got the upper left box, the superfluous strengths. I think that's kind of an interesting label. These are areas that you're really good in, but don't currently support your strategy. So, what do you want to do with these? Well, a couple of things. One, you can consider various alterations to your strategy. Can your current strategy be extended or changed to utilize these strengths? Another opportunity might be in partnering with others. You're good at this, but it's not key to your strategy. Maybe this is something where you can be the company that others outsource to, and you can gain advantage in these strengths. Now, you don't want to continue to build these strengths at the expense of the things on the right, the key strengths, but if you're already good at them, you're just not utilizing them as well as you could, find a way, whether that's in your own strategy or in working with others. With all that said, now I'm going to ask you to go out and take a look at companies and see if you can find one that you believe Bill has key capabilities that they are building their strategy on. And I'm going to ask you to kind of apply the things we just talked about to see if you can explain really what it is in the way of their capabilities that are leading to their competitive advantage.